And what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Turnbuckle Topix podcast. I'm your host, Pat Dineen, alongside The Associate, and this is our AEW Dynamite review, of which took place Wednesday, March 1st. Here we are in March already, Associate. Could you believe it? And this took place at the Cow Palace in San Francisco, California. And Sunday night will be AEW Revolution, also taking place in San Francisco, California, but at the Chase Center. You excited for this or what?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe in past years we've kind of like mentioned that Revolution is normally one of the better of the main core pay-per-views for AEW. So hopefully it lives up to our expectations. Um, and that's really all that can be said about that.
Well, I got to be honest with you. I don't know how you feel, but Dynamite overall on Wednesday night, in my opinion, probably the best of the new year. It's definitely up
Mm.
there. It was a solid show. I'd have to give it an 8. And I know a lot of people are probably saying, "How are you giving the best show of the year an 8?" But in all sincerity, as we discussed prior to
Mhm.
recording here, the first hour was definitely better. It did
Right.
teeter off a little in the second hour, which we'll get to all of it, but the first hour was definitely jam packed. If you blinked, you missed a segment, and it was just that good. So, by the way, folks, in just a few days' time, again, Revolution will be taking place, and me and the associate will be putting out an additional episode to give you our predictions as to who we have coming out victorious or not so for
Uh,
AEW Revolution. So it's a pay per view again, like you mentioned. It's their first pay per view of the year. It really sets the tone for the year, and
mm,
hopefully they deliver. I think coming out of Dynamite Wednesday night, there was a lot more hope and promise as far as what this show may have. They even added a match, which we'll also get to. Um, how did you feel about this show overall, though? Would you rank it as one of the top in the last 8, 9 weeks?
I want to say like it's definitely somewhere maybe within the top five. Because I know in the in that first month of January, I did like a lot of the episodes. February, it felt like it teetered off a bit for me, to be
Yeah.
honest. So with this first episode of in March, it felt refreshing compared to the episodes in February for me.
All right, well, let's get into it. Again, this was a jam-packed show. No time wasted at all. They barely had time for commercials to pay their bills. So for the
Right.
second consecutive week, they started off with the AEW All-Atlantic Champion Orange Cassidy defending his title yet again. I gotta say though, last week against Wheeler Yuta, the Ring of Honor Pure Champion, your buddy from the Blackpool Combat Club, put on one hell of a display, both of them. And Wheeler
Right.
Yuta, and maybe the Blackpool Combat Club as a whole, is I guess you could say they've kind of been tweeners this whole time, but leaning much more towards the side of becoming heels. Now I know Brian Danielson, as far as I'm concerned, is still affiliated with them, right? He's the only one who's like seemingly a true baby face. But Moxley, Claudio, and Wheeler Yuta,
Right.
you could say they're all heels now, right? Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, it's one of those weird things where they're somehow more vicious now without William Regal.
I like it
This is
though.
yeah, this is what I wish the Combat Club would have been.
Hmm.
When Regal was with them. But unfortunately, we didn't get to see that. Yeah, as you said, they're kind of. It felt like they were a tweener. And for me, it felt like they were a little bit more of a face group. Um, and now you can see, like as you said, the dynamics are changing. Especially Moxley and Claudio. Uh, and we're starting to see like Wheeler Yuta, where he's kind of being like pulled to one side, but he's used to being a face. So
Hmm.
we'll see what becomes of that group. I know we've discussed through text messages of like where we see this group going or not.
Would
You
you
know,
like to see the group be renamed? Because obviously the Blackpool Combat Club was something based or derived from, William Regal being there. So, I mean, it's an awesome name. Maybe they could shorten it somehow. But regardless, I think that uh, I think we could all agree that Wheeler Yuta is kind of the low man on the totem pole. No knock to him. It's just you were there with such decorated superstars and Claudio, Moxley, and Danielson, all three former WWE stars, all champions over there in some regard. And
mm,
so, to see the viciousness and tenacity coming from him and stemming from Wheeler Yuta and Claudio reminding him, like, yes, stay focused, get your game face on, stay vicious. I think it's very promising. I know we spoke months ago about maybe he needed to change as far as ring gear or shaving his head or something, but hell, he could keep the ring gear and the hair because I think as long as he brings this for the second consecutive week, as he did later in the show during the Casino Battle Royale, I'm here for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like my standpoint with, and I'll just shorten it just so we can give them a new name as you were alluding to. You just call them the Combat Club. I feel like the way it is in my mind is like I don't think a lot of people would agree with me what should happen with that group. To be honest, I feel like I'm in the minority. I
Yeah.
feel like if anything, I would like to see Bryant, you know, go away from the group. I would like to see Wheeler Yuta still kind of like be invested, but I think at some point, maybe in the summertime, like either he decides to leave the group or he gets kicked out, and you can just see uh, like a more vicious side of Moxley and Claudio compared to like right now in this standpoint of time. And
Okay.
maybe they recruit someone else, you know.
Yeah, I'd be here for that. So, like you said, I wouldn't mind if one person were to go. I wouldn't mind seeing Brian Danielson leave because he's the one that's
Yeah.
seemingly the full-fledged face, while the other three are leaning towards the heel side. And I wouldn't mind a new fourth member and see what happens from there. We thought months ago we'd get Daniel Garcia over there, but they reeled him back in, Jericho and Company, and the Jericho Appreciation Society. So we'll see about that. But hey, let's get to this opening bout. So your boy, formerly known as W. Morrissey on Impact, and of course Big Cass of Enzo and Cass in WWE, Big Bill of the Firm with
Yeah.
Stokely Hathaway ringside with him. We saw Stokely Hathaway a lot on this night. Was out there with a lot of members of the Firm throughout the night. This was a good match. Start off the match, Big Bill put Orange Cassidy through a table on the outside. However, two orange punches and an additional one off the top turnbuckle uh, sealed the deal and got him the win. This was a little over 10 minutes. And Orange Cassidy retained his All Atlantic Championship. So he opened the night and ended the night, which, well, pretty much we'll get to in a little bit. But how do you feel about back to back weeks of seeing Orange Cassidy come out? I got to be honest, from my standpoint, even though they put on a banger of a match last week, him and Yuta to open the show, it's
Mm,
just like, man, it goes back to those hand-picked favorites of Tony Khan's, and it is what it is, I suppose, because he is a fan favorite as well. Don't get me wrong, also a champion in the company. So
mhm.
having him back-to-back weeks to open the show, I know it sets the show off on the right foot, get the crowd going. And this was a good match. Of course, it didn't live up to the match last week because they were more evenly matched in size and stature. But
Yeah.
uh, do you, how do you feel about seeing him continually being the hot hand, I guess you could say, for the company?
Right. I like I'm no knock against Cassidy. You know, we both love Cassidy, but
Yeah.
I feel like I guess you're right in that it felt way off compared to last week, this week, where that same, you know, intensity was not there. And that might have just been the fault of Tony Khan. Like, you know, he tries so hard to like stay with the hot hand, and it doesn't always pan out because there have been there was like when CM Punk was when he came back winning, I felt like he opened like 4 weeks in a row for Dynamite, something
Yeah,
like that, something crazy. And the
very true.
same thing with you know, Brian Danielson, you know, like it felt like he opened up like 3 weeks in a row too, just like doing like that opening match, whatever. So he has like that tendency to just like he kind of like beating the dead horse where it's like, God damn it, man, like
It's
let's do something.
overdone.
Yeah, like you gave us a fantastic match last week. And don't get me wrong, we know that Cassidy was going to be on this card at some point, but it didn't have to necessarily be the opening match again.
Right. No, I was kind of like, oh man, couldn't we just leave it at that last week? 'And I don't exactly, I haven't been up to snuff on the merch sales for AEW. I know a while back, his buddy of the best friends, Danhausen, has been crushing it as far as merch sales, I believe, regardless of his in-ring ability or where he stands on the roster. And of course, there's Trent Beretta and Chuck Taylor, all members of the best friends again. From a wrestling standpoint, as far as like in ring, um, I feel like they're kind of irrelevant. If I was to handpick one of the three, I would definitely push a Trent Beretta in singles competition. Danhausen and Chuck Taylor kind of is what it is as far as me watching Dynamite on a daily basis or Rampage. But it's like, as popular as an Orange Cassidy is, it's almost like you always see them come to the surface again And it's just kind of, I feel like it's seen its day, it's seen its time. Orange Cassidy still has it going on for himself, and good for him, happy for him. But it's just kind of like, man, if this is a guy you're going to spotlight week in, week out, you either just got to have him on his own or put him with a different group of folks, like a different faction or something, because it's just very stale back there, and I'm sure they wouldn't mind a change of pace either. They're just in the shadows every week.
Right. And it sucks. It's sad, but it's true that a lot of the things that were so great about AEW when it initially started in 2019, and you could even say in 2020, aren't going so well. I think past that 2020 year, where you know we enjoyed seeing what is it, the best friends fighting with what is it, Proud and Powerful at
Hmm.
the time, and we wanted one of those. The fans I know really wanted either team to be champion at the time. That never sufficed. And then, things happen, people leave the company, they lose their popularity, other teams or whatever. And right now, it's one of those, like you said, it's very irrelevant. The best friends like that whole group. Yeah, people, they're lovable, they're likable, but when we see them come to the ring, we know that it's not going to pay off,
It's here
storyline.
we go again. We've
Yeah,
seen this a
right.
million times, and it's speaking of which, taking it back to November, which you shed light on this situation, I didn't know about the backstage drama. It is very sad to see that Proud and Powerful are no longer a thing. We see Ortiz out there in the face of the Revolution ladder match later this night, which obviously he was not the one who came out victorious. But Santana, his former tag team partner, is still yet to come back from that awful injury he received, was it 9, 10 months ago? Now, do you know if he's even ready to go? Is he coming back to the company? Is he still listed? Do you know the answer to any of those questions?
I mean, the only thing that I could say most likely for sure is that he would most likely be back, and if he's gonna be back, it's due to, them adding on time to his contract because, that's basically what's going on with, Kenny Omega right now is that his contract was supposed to end around I wanna say around this time, whether it's March or April, something like that, but he got, all that time added on to because he was gone for so long, so his contract won't be up until, maybe end of this year or early beginning of next year. And I would think that that's probably gonna be the same situation with,
With
yeah,
Santana?
yeah, with Santana.
Now, whether he comes back in singles, which we think is probably the case, or which I hope tag team, do you think regardless he is to resign, or you think he's out of there? I mean, I don't know if WWE would be interested in him. I do like him,
Right.
if it's not in tag team sense where he's, it's been his bread and butter,
Mhm.
for him and Ortiz over the years. We've seen them at the Rawway Rec Center, 2015, 2016. And here they are. They made their way through Impact, and they were tag team champions a few times there. And then AEW, they should have been tag champs. But if they're to split, do you see a future for either of them as single stars?
I can see them like both of them having singles careers, kind of going their own ways. As for like, you know, single stars, I'm leaning towards no. If anything, I could see them being great mid carders, but I don't see any of either one being a main eventer anytime soon.
You don't see an NXT maybe picking up a Santana if he were not to resign.
I mean, they could pick him up, but like I was saying, like he would be like a great mid carder wherever he goes.
Okay,
I don't think it's going to be leading to like the main title of any brand.
all right,
Yeah,
fair enough. Let me not get sidetracked anymore. Just got a few questions for you. That's all.
yeah.
We haven't even scratched the surface on this Dynamite review, by the way, folks. Hang in there. It is me and the associate. It's been almost what, month and a half or so. So
Mm.
here we are. After that match, we had a brief segment from Mox. Apparently, this was from last week after his match, but this was unaired. Mox going off with a bloodied face, talking about his match with Hangman Adam Page, and that it will be a Texas death match this Sunday. So now we've seen many a Texas death match. Would you like to explain that to the masses? What we may be looking at? Obviously, we know that Moxley will be bleeding as soon as the bell rings. I'm sure Hangman will as
Yeah.
well. But in short, what's the best way to describe this?
I don't know, just basically just an all out brawl. Like basically your ordinary hardcore match is the best way to really describe it.
Yeah, Texas Death Match in California. That's what we're getting. So,
Yeah.
so we're going
It
to the.
sounds really funny when you say it out loud like that.
Well, it's funny because when they mentioned it, I second guessed myself. I said, "Wait, I thought it's thought it's here in San Fran, and it is." But hey, it is what it is. I kind of like hearing matches like that that should only be in again said location because it kind of
Right.
amps it up. Nonetheless, so I digress. The Elite, they came out, their theme music hit. Only for a matter of seconds, it was suddenly cut short. It faded to black. Heavy
Right.
pun intended there. And briefly, they showed the House of Black behind them, all three members. The lights went out once again. The House of Black attacked them. You could hear it. You couldn't see anything. Lights come back on. You see the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. They're there lying on the ground, while the House of Black stood tall, each holding a trios title behind them. Again, leading into their trios title match this Sunday at Revolution. Of course, we're going to get to our picks in the next episode. We want to spoil it without saying too much here.
Mm.
Um, again, I don't know how you feel necessarily. I forget how you felt about the House of Black in the past as far as them becoming champions, but I know, and you know very well, that I've advocated for them to be champions since All Out back in
Yeah.
early September. So, me seeing this match suddenly come about, not a heck of a lot of storytelling or storyline involved. Again, I'd be led to believe that without putting my pick out there, that I find it very hard to believe that the Elite are going to lose. If they do lose, great. I'm okay with it. I'm sure you will because I know for months you've been telling me you just want to see Kenny Omega in a singles capacity and the Young Bucks back to just being a tag team, as they've been for a very long time. But it just doesn't feel like it's their time to reign as champions. As much as I'd love that, what's your vibes here?
What it reminds me of is very similar to the situation where we had the Elite coming in last minute versus the Lucha Brothers at that pay per view where we ended up starting that whole series with the what best of seven. Um, I don't mind it. It's to be honest, just because the whole situation with the trios title is very odd. I just because it's taken away so much from the actual tag team division itself. But I'll just say this is that I like what I saw just so we can kind of rush it. Just because it feels difficult for whatever reason for them to build up, these feuds with the trios belt. I don't know why, but yeah,
Well,
I,
that's a very good point too. It's been very noticeable, but that there's been a lack of focus on the tag team division since they've implemented the trios titles.
mhm,
But, good point. Good point. I mean, I guess storylines or storytelling in the trios, it's all new to them. To be fair, it's only been a few months since they've even had them incorporated in their company.
right,
So that's fair. I did like the subtlety of the House of Black running up on them, if you will, Wednesday night. Beating them up, holding up their titles. They later in the show cut a promo on them, which was also good. The addition of Julia Hart has been great, in my opinion. It's always just been a matter of showcasing them, whether it's in a promo capacity or in ring. They've been good all along. It's great, really. Just all about booking them, right? I
mm,
think our only knock with them has kind of been how they come down to the ring. It's black for the longest time. It goes pitch black, dark, and then they're suddenly all in the ring. I do think it's cool when the lights come on and they're all in the ring and stuff like that. But I feel like there's a long lapse of time if we're being critical
yeah.
from the time they're at the top of the ramp to that. But outside of that, I don't think we've had anything negative to say as far as House of Black.
Oh well, for me, sorry, sorry to step on your points, but yeah, no, for me, like the only negative things that I thought, well, besides that, we did throw that out there was that like the lack of like attention that they actually really received. Tony Khan would like be like, all right, it looks like something big's gonna happen with this group, and then they go away from TV, and it's like, wait, what's going on? And then we find out that there are various situations going on with a few of the members for the House of Black, whether it was Buddy or Malachi, and it's just like, you just killed like you know all the steam that was behind this thing that we were waiting to happen, and it just never arrives to the occasion. And uh, it- I'm hoping that this is the year for the House of Black.
And I'm sure it will be. Again, I'm just a little skeptical about it being this Sunday. But hopefully
Right.
they make their way to a rematch against them or whoever the next champions may be, whether it's the spring or summertime. But unfortunately, it hasn't just been the House of Black. I mean, that's a very notable group, being that they're a stable, mostly used in a trios capacity. But there's a lot of people we think are going to get that are or were getting that momentum and that push, and then they're away from TV from 3 to 5, maybe even 6 weeks, and it's like, all right, well, it's been a month and
Yeah,
a half. Where the hell are they? You know. And now that Miro is officially on a milk carton, we know Andrade's done with AEW, right? But Miro, I guess they're just letting his contract run out. We're not going to make a long
yeah,
segment about that, but that's kind of what we're assuming here, right?
yeah. You could throw different wrestlers. What is it? Lance Archer.
Lance
He,
Archer, yeah,
he popped up again. What was it, last week or was it the week before? Out of nowhere,
yeah.
basically acting like an RKO.
I
In
was
this,
just gonna say that. Yep,
and
stole my
yeah,
thunder.
stole the joke right out of your
Son
mouth.
of a gun.
And we always wonder like what's becoming of these guys. Are they having like disputes with Tony, or is it Tony just playing favorites for the other guys? What the hell's going on? But
This is Tony
yeah.
Khan. Hey, let's not worry about that. But next up, Orange Cassidy. And after that, we're gonna give you Britt Baker, and then we're
And
just
Chris
gonna
Jericho.
rinse and repeat. Yes, and then the Ocho, Chris Jericho, or one of his 10 gimmicks, the Lionheart, or what's his other one, the Wizard. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. Anyway, let's move on to this next bit here. We had Samoa Joe come out, the Ring of Honor Television Champion and AEW TBS Champion, as he refers to himself as the King of Television. Made his way out to sit ringside for this next matchup. Now, this Face of the Revolution ladder match would usually take place at Revolution unto itself. And I was very surprised that
Right.
they didn't leave it for this Sunday, but I do get it. Let's start with the AEW World Championship match. We have a 1 hour Iron Man match between MJF and Bryan Danielson. So maybe for the first time in AEW history, they're actually taking into account time and time
Right.
management and saying, hey, you know what? Maybe we should not go forth with all these matches. But we'll look at the card again next episode and go from it soup to nuts. But I don't know if that's the match I would have threw on Dynamite, this Face of the Revolution ladder match, because it was a great match. 8
Hmm.
credible opponents. We even had a debut, which I'm going to get to in there. But I don't know. What was your thoughts? I mean, in 2021 we got Scorpio Sky. 2022 we had Wardlow win. I thought both of those matches were fantastic. And
Hmm.
were you disappointed after seeing the result of this match that it wasn't on Revolution, or did you think it was acceptable to put it on Dynamite?
Kind of like you, it did end up catching me off guard. I will say that I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it. Um, because the match delivered essentially. And playing its part, leading to what's going to lead down the line,
Yeah.
and having Hobbs win is that I know, at least for me, on here I've been saying that I would love to see more of Hobbs. He's been there since 2020,
Yeah,
and
he was there shortly after AEW formed, yeah, with Team Taz. He turned
right,
heel almost immediately. He was babyface for a few episodes.
yeah, he's been putting in the work, and you can see that he's gradually getting better.
Mm-hmm.
He's feeling more comfortable cutting promos, whether it be on the mic, but more so like doing like a backstage promo or something else, like a video package.
Yeah.
Um, but he's always been solid in the ring. So for me, I would like to see him like continue this trend of like winning and really seeing him shine.
Well, it was a great match. The 8 competitors were AR Fox, Action Andretti, Eddie Kingston, Ortiz, Konosuke Takeshita, Powerhouse Hobbs, as you mentioned, who ended up
Mhm.
coming out with the victory, Sammy Guevara, and this was the debut for Commander. Now, I'm not sure if you ever heard of him, Komander. Apparently, he's from the Bay Area out there. He's only 24 years old. Very impressive high flyer. He was walking on the ropes with ease, absolutely unreal. So he impressed me. We'll see what happens going forward for him, but I think he will definitely be a highlight reel in AEW. That's for sure. Now, Action Andretti took a tough spill during the middle of this match. He had a spot with Sammy Guevara. Not sure if you caught it. Actually, got his leg caught in the ladder, but was able to continue. Then it was probably just moments later on the outside. He also took another big hit when Guevara jumped from the top of the ladder, landing on Action Andretti, putting him through an additional ladder. Sammy, however, did not leave unscathed. Comes a point in the match where we're wrapping up here. in the center of the ring. Hobbs pushed Takeshita very hard off the ladder as Takeshita was going up for that
Mhm.
what's up there? Was it like a ring or something like that? The
Yeah,
opportunity for like a big golden ring,
the
whatever they
brass
call it,
ring,
the
whatever.
brass
Yeah,
ring.
yeah,
So, again, Takeshita was well on his way to going up there. Hobbs pushed him so damn hard he twisted the ladder. The one side of it, the legs were completely shifted to the left, and so he first tried to stabilize it because you could tell
yeah.
he's going for the victory here. There's nobody around. Couldn't stabilize the ladder. I mean, there was a ladder to the side. He could have easily just tossed it and grabbed the other one, but it's easy for us to say just watching on TV. So
Right.
anyway, he's trying to get this ladder steady. You see one, two, three officials dive into the ring, being like, "Oh wow, like we got to secure this because this is it. It's the end of the
Yeah.
match." So you have a referee on each side of the ladder trying to stabilize this. First of all, it's hard to stabilize a ladder that's broken anyway.
Correct. Yeah,
Secondly, you have I don't know what's Hobbs' weigh. He's got to be upwards of 300, give or take, right?
for
I mean,
sure.
the
Yeah.
guy's all muscles. So imagine that. They must have been sweating bullets, all
Dude,
laying there, hoping, I hope this man does
yeah.
not fall or this ladder does not break.
The higher he went up on the ladder, the more worrisome I became. I was just like, oh God, I don't
And
want him
so
to
was
take it.
he. So was
Yeah,
he. Right before he got to that top rung or so, those last couple rungs, you could tell he was a little hesitant. He's like, man, I
yeah.
hope this holds.
It's like he looked back down. He's like, yeah,
Yeah,
hold that for
he's
me,
like,
you
I hope
know.
I'm not hanging up from this, hanging on to this damn ring. But
Right.
anyway, he got the job done. They stabilized it. Kudos to the three officials that hopped in there, and he got the victory. So now Hobbs will face the winner of Samoa Joe and Wardlow. I believe it's next Wednesday on Dynamite. We'll see who's going to win between Wardlow and Samoa Joe, which we'll get to later. For I believe only the AEW TBS Championship is on the line, not the Ring of Honor title. Correct?
Mm,
So that's just one side. I would have liked to see a winner take all bid, but so that's what
right.
we're looking at there. So again, you were happy with the results. So was I. Um, can't really think of anybody else I would have liked to see win that match. I mean, it would have been nice to see Takeshita win that match, give him some
Yeah,
momentum.
I think that's
Uh,
what a lot of the kind of like feedback was, or like online presence was saying. But um, man, yeah, I could see him winning the match. It doesn't mean like he would have won the title or anything. So having Takeshita or Hobbs win, I think regardless, it would have been fine.
And
Uh,
it makes the most sense storyline
yeah.
wise because if you take it back to Full Gear, right, when Samoa Joe won
Mm,
the TBS title from Wardlow, it was in a triple threat match. It was Hobbs, Wardlow, and Joe, so it just continues to keep it going. My dark horse for the match was AR Fox.
yeah,
Again, I didn't think he was necessarily going to win, but I think that would have been cool out of nowhere type of deal.
yeah. And for me, kind of like stepping out of this match, it did two things. One is like a criticism. The other one is kind of like a suggestion. I guess you could say is that, and I'll go with the positive first. Is that this match really made me want to see like them focus on more so like a cruiserweight division. I don't know if they can. They definitely have like the the wrestlers on the roster, but I don't know if they would want to create another title.
Yeah, that's the
Uh,
last thing we need. But
that
I understand the premise of it.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just seeing all the high flying wrestlers. It always, because I always love the cruiserweights. I always love watching that. So especially like if you like reminiscing to like what was it in 2016 when we
Yeah,
had that,
Cruiserweight Classic in
right?
WWE. Yeah.
Like, creating some type of division like that where you could just see a lot of the younger guys just high flying like without a care in the world. Yeah, I love that style of wrestling. And then like just my criticism is that, and you just mentioned it, was that damn ring. It looks like an inflatable donut. It looks very
Hey,
comical.
don't you badmouth donuts like that. That's
Right. It just looks so nonsensical. Like it, for what it is, like, and we as wrestling fans always hear it from other people who aren't wrestling fans, is like, oh, wrestling's dumb and stupid. I'm sure if someone was flipping through the channel and like stopped to watch for a second, it's like, what the hell is he going for?
yeah.
I know that they don't want to steal like the idea of like, I guess, the briefcase or whatever. Just put
Yeah, and I respect that they're not trying to be WWE-esque.
right. But man, just change it up, Tony. Like
Something new. I agree.
he doesn't have to listen to me, but he could hear that feedback from someone else, in the company. But like,
Hmm.
hey, let's. We've had how many years of that now, and
Yeah,
it
it's the
looks
third
dumb.
consecutive year. Yeah.
It feels dumber every year when I look at it. I'm just like, yeah.
Well, and here's the thing too. Again, we've seen Scorpio Sky in 2021, Wardlow the following year, and that now Powerhouse Hobbs this year.
Right.
And again, I hope next year they move it back to the pay-per-view. Again, don't schedule an Iron Man match at, not at a pay-per-view, but I guess at least at Revolution, because I really do like seeing this match take place there. You got 8 hungry competitors, as we saw on Wednesday night, and I feel like that kind of, you
Mm,
know that's something you want to save for a pay-per-view, and you give them all the opportunity for the even if the 7 other people that don't win, at least they had a pay-per-view slot. You got to
mm,
show the world on regular television, but you know what I mean. Um, they got to think of something else though, because it does look more and more ridiculous as they come down with it. The first year you get away with it, say, okay, you're trying to dare to be different. It's not a
uh,
briefcase, but let's not get too caught up in that, I suppose.
yeah.
So let's move to the next segment. Chris Jericho coming out against Peter Avalon. Now, Peter Avalon, he looks better than his initial presentation in AEW as the librarian. New spruced up look, got a haircut, new ring gear. He looks good out there. This ended with Jericho, I believe, was disqualified for hitting Avalon with a bat. Your boy Ricky Starks ran out there for the save, but Jake Hager, Daniel Garcia, and Chris Jericho attacked him. The numbers game got to him, all the JAS members. And Jericho landed a nasty Judas effect to Ricky Starks. It looked like he damn near knocked his lights out. So that's going to be a good match. We've seen Starks already beat Jericho in the past.
Right.
Again, this isn't a rematch I was really chopping at the bit for, but of course they're going to put Jericho on the pay-per-view. I do believe that Ricky Starks, and you certainly believe you love him as well, should be on a pay-per-view as well. So I guess they said, hey, you know what? Two birds, one stone. Let's have them have a rematch. And so that's exactly what we're going to get. Again, get to our predictions during the next episode for this. When the hell's Jake Hager going to get rid of this purple bucket hat, man? It's been about 4 or 5 months. That was originally presented to Daniel Garcia when he joined. I'm it is funny to a point. I know there was a backstage segment a couple of weeks ago where Jericho basically broke character. I don't know if you saw that spot, and they're all yelling out something. It reminded me of that movie Anchorman.
Mm,
When Steve Carell goes, "I don't know what I'm yelling about," like that, and
yeah.
Jake Hager said something about how much he loved his purple hat, and Jericho, again, every show I refer to a clip, so I'll send you the clip if you haven't seen it yet. It's funny, but anyway, what'd you think of this? Are you excited for this rematch?
Yeah, man. It's one of those things where initially, like, where we saw it going, I was just like, "You gotta be kidding me! They're really gonna milk this again." But at this point, I'm gonna say yes. I'm excited to see the match. Just so from the standpoint of we can see uh more of that like limelight on focusing on Ricky and his ascension, like you know climbing towards that main event picture. So
Sure.
yeah.
All right. After that, we had a Hangman Adam Page segment. He claims that this Sunday he will be the most violent and bloodthirsty son of a gun, despite that not being his usual motto. He knows that's how he'll need to be going into a matchup with John Moxley. Of course, these two have fought numerous times. I forget who has the lead here. Does Hangman have a 2-match-to-1 lead on Moxley? Something like that. I feel like he has the lead.
Oh,
Could
I
be
thought it was
wrong.
the other way around, man.
Could be. Could be.
Yeah,
But either or, these two have had some gruesome matches, uh, quite dangerous matches. There was a match
yeah,
a
yeah.
few months ago where what Moxley concussed Hangman,
Mhm.
and so they've been going back and forth. It's been a very interesting dynamic these past few weeks or month where Renee Paquette, Moxley's wife, has been the one interviewing Hangman. So we've seen some interesting back and forth between the two as well, just to incorporate more interest and intrigue in this feud. So hopefully this will be the last matchup between the two. Again, it's a Texas death match, so I'm sure it's going to be gruesome and crazy and all of the above. Probably both of them just might knock each other out at the same time, and it'll be a draw. Who knows? But
Right.
where's your level of interest fall with this as well? Are you glad to see yet again another rematch of the two? This will probably be the final battle between the two.
Fingers crossed, just like the just like the match that we just talked about before.
Yeah,
Yeah. Um, I'm gonna say that this one is I don't want to say like I'm not excited, but I'm like less excited if that makes any sense.
compared to Jericho and Starks.
Yeah, just because I gave you my standpoint of like where I see certain individuals in the company.
Hmm.
Um,
You haven't been too keen on Hangman as of late. You've liked him
mhm,
over the years, but you feel like his momentum or lack thereof, his presence maybe in the company isn't what you thought it would be by
correct.
2023.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not where it should be or where people think it is.
Hmm.
That's just me trying to like view things, without a what is it, the rose colored glasses. I'm looking at this with the microscope,
That's fair. It's fair.
um, but and that's one of the like the tougher decisions that I have when it comes to our prediction is that depending on who I pick, kind of dictates what's going to happen. Uh, with like the main card and the mid card. I don't know. It's a little difficult right now. So in a way, I'm not that happy to see this match happen again.
All right. Well, you got some time till we hop into that prediction show. And
Mm,
again, this is another match where I'm sure it will be quality. I'm not chomping at the bit for this one either, as I am for Jericho and Starks. I'm kind of indifferent to both of them, but I think again back to the other match with Starks. Hopefully, it just spotlights him, highlights him, and continues to give him the momentum that he needs going forward, and to eventually make his way to the main event picture. Of course, he had that match against MJF as soon as MJF became champion for the title, but
right.
hopefully this will give him a chance against some heavy hitters and get some wins in the meantime. So following that segment, we had Renee Paquette with Christian Cage. Now talking about this feud of Jungle Boy Jack Perry and Christian Cage. This dates back all the way to June 15th. I believe that was the Road Rager episode or something like that, when there was a tag team match where they lost the titles. They went up against the Young Bucks. That was the match where the Hardys were supposed to be involved too, right? It's supposed to be the three-way tag title match
Mhm.
where
Right.
we all presumed that the Hardys would have come out victorious. Nonetheless, that is also after the Young Bucks defeated Jurassic Express. Christian turned on Jungle Boy post match. Christian said, went on to say during this interview with Renee Paquette that he will win a singles championship in 2023. But Jungle Boy claims he will also do the same. And Christian says over his dead body, challenges Jungle Boy to a match this Sunday at Revolution. That makes the card go from 7 matches to 8 matches. Uh-oh, here we go. We're just, and I'll be honest though, this is a match I am very much looking forward to. I have to say. Um,
Mm,
then he goes on to say some disrespectful words, as he said for the last 6 months, to Jack Perry or about his family or his late father, Luke Perry. He says Jungle Boy, just like his father, is a no talent hack. Now, Luke Perry, of course, who unfortunately passed away this Saturday, believe it or not, Kev, will be 4 years. It was March 4th, 2019. Of course, we all know Luke Perry, Beverly Hills 90210. Anyway, Christian says for Jack Perry, just be thankful for your good looks, much like your father that got you through life. Says he doesn't have grit, and so on. Badgered him with a whole bunch of other phrases and stuff. Lights go out. Suddenly on the Tron, Jungle Boy has a shovel in hand, appears to be digging a grave. We eventually see a tombstone that reads Christian Cage. So the match is official. Again, it's only the eighth match. I want to go back real quick and start with Revolution 2020. That was the first time this pay per view came about. 9 matches in 2020, 9 matches in 2021. Last year, Tony Khan did what he loves to do. He added more matches. It went from 9 to last year it went to 12. Now, right now, at this very moment of this recording, we are
yeah.
at eight. We are at 8 matches, and although I will say I can see this pay per view going to as much as 10, which we've agreed on. 10 is okay. That's a good number. Typically, I would say it's going to go to 12. Again, I go back to that 1 hour Iron Man match between MJF and Danielson, which is why I think they'll be reluctant to add more than 10. Maybe get 2 or 3 pre-show matches. But again, this is only match 8. Very much looking forward to this feud. What are your thoughts on this Christian Cage Jack Perry matchup?
And it feels like we're doing all the like repeat feuds going on back to back, which is just humorous to me. Is that in this standpoint, it makes sense story wise,
Mm-hmm.
um, where we just see these two antagonizing one each other. Um, more so Christian, having this hatred for Jungle Boy. Um, a- and I think it's necessary for Jungle Boy, just because to play off his babyface character. He's needed that push for the longest time, and we never know who was going to be, adversary that was going to do this to him. And I think Christian's doing it in such a heelish way that it makes you really love this feud, you know.
Christian's great. He's a
Yeah,
great heel.
yeah. So for me, and I've discussed this in past episodes, is where I felt like this is going to be the year where we see most of, or if not all, the members of the quote unquote, what is it, the four pillars, step
Yeah.
up. We already have MJF as a champion. We've had Darby, who's been TNT champion multiple times.
Yeah,
Uh,
much like Sammy Guevara.
right, and Jungle Boy, all he really ever had was his tag team run,
Hmm.
uh, but it wasn't the greatest tag team title run by any means for AEW. So we knew at some point he was going to be a singles competitor, but he was always the one that kind of like he had the look, but he lacked the personality. And this is
Sure.
how, but this feud is helping him develop his personality more. Getting more comfortable on the mic because he was never one to be skillful for his promos.
He's coming around. He's definitely coming around, and I think this is the breakout year for Jack Perry. Again, we've seen the others. I don't want to say peak, but we've seen again Darby Allin, Sammy Guevara peak in the sense of win championships, get all these accomplishments early on. 2, 3 time was it TNT? I'm sorry, I was calling. Now that I think of it, I was calling all them TBS champion earlier. That's Jade Cargill, TNT champion.
Yeah,
I got sorry,
uh,
sorry to Scorpio Sky and Wardlow and all those guys. I called Samoa Joe a TBS champion. He's gonna find me and beat my ass. They are TNT champions. TBS champion is the undefeated Jade Cargill. What is
I
she?
was gonna leave you on that island by yourself,
Yeah,
but
thanks a lot. Associates leaving me here to drown. Unbelievable. I only said it
um,
about 5 or 6 times, but
and,
again, they've won them early on.
yeah,
Unlike him,
and I'm just gonna throw out this imaginary scenario, and I don't mean to get off topic, but like discussing that,
we do it.
with
We do it all the time.
we do it all the time. I'm so sorry, people, but thank you for bearing with us. Is that because we don't really know who's MJF's future opponent's gonna be. Like should he retain this pay per view? Who are his next opponents gonna be? And rather than seeing kind of like a one by one, a one off, I wouldn't mind seeing you know one of these feuds, end up being like maybe he's in a fatal four way,
Okay.
and maybe he's or maybe it's a what is it, a fatal five way or something like that. So maybe he ends up versing the other members of the so called imaginary four pillars.
Speaking of Jungle Boy Jack Perry and his former tag team partner Luchasaurus, I heard a wild rumor last week. I
Hmm.
didn't really follow up much on it, but I heard there was something as far as an issue with his mask. As far as I don't know if there was a copyright infringement issue or if it related to any maybe television series or
Hmm.
I don't know, maybe Jurassic
Inter-
Park suing him. No, I don't know. In all sincerity, what if maybe not the likelihood of there being a character change for Luchasaurus? Maybe it's the name itself. I don't know. Maybe it's more than the mask. I
hmm.
wonder if and when he's back, if he'll have a new appearance, a new name. At minimum, I'm thinking a new mask. Did you hear anything about that?
To be honest, I didn't
Yeah.
even anything about that, but that's pretty interesting to me.
Hmm.
It,
We haven't
because
seen him in like a month and a half, at least.
because the first time when we saw him, he was Luchasaurus when we saw him in Indies,
Yep.
and he's
3 years.
yeah, we've known him like that ever since. Like before like Lucha Underground ended, he
Hmm.
was still Luchasaurus, uh, you know. So that's pretty interesting. Does he decide, like, yeah, like you're saying, does he decide to be Luchasaurus, wear a new mask, which is kind of the easiest thing to do? Does he decide to no longer be Luchasaurus, still wear a mask as something else? Does he decide to change his name, like use a new, maybe something like his real name, and
A
then
totally new
that's all
character, right?
that? Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I'm hoping for his sake that it is literally just the tweak of a appearance, a mask. Hopefully for
Right.
him, he doesn't have to change the name and his
Yeah.
whole appearance. It's a big undertaking. I'm not opposed to seeing him as his true actual self,
Hmm.
but I'm not so sure how confident he is as far as
Uh,
starting from scratch. Do I think it's possible? Yes, but I don't know
yeah.
how he feels. It's been so long.
Right. I, yeah, you're right about that. I think if anything, he could definitely pull it off. He's a very intelligent human being.
He has a
Um,
great look. Yeah, I mean, he's
or
freaking massive.
doesn't he have like a master's or something? Yeah, right. And
I did not know that.
yeah, so and then he when it came to being uh what is it Jurassic Express, it felt like we heard more from him than Jungle Boy at the time. Anytime they were doing like a backstage promo or something, if we weren't hearing from a Marco for whatever reason.
Yeah, Marco Stunt. That's right.
Yeah, so I think should he ever decide to change his character for whatever reason, I think he could definitely do it.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see. We'll have to follow up more on that story and see what's going to happen. Hopefully, he'll be back soon too. It's been a while since he's been on TV. I'm saying month and a half. Hell, it may have been longer. Maybe we haven't even seen him yet in 2023. I can't remember the last time he had a match or a segment. So
Mm,
moving on here, we have Matt Hardy going up against FTW champion Hook. Now make sure I get my titles right, okay? I don't want to call Samoa Joe TBS champion again. Again, he's probably
okay.
looking put me in the coquina clutch. Anyway, we had Ethan Page on the outside towards the end of this match. Who went and struck Hook with a cast. Now, whose cast was that? Who was wearing a cast through this match? I didn't even know. Was it Matt Hardy? Was it his? Was it Ethan Page's cast? Did he take it off Hook at some point?
Was the cast not
Sort of like his
Stokely?
forearm. Oh, was
Oh,
it Stokely Hathaway's? Okay, makes
mhm.
sense.
When
So yeah,
uh Hook put him in like that lock backstage, right?
yeah. Well, this match led to I didn't even know the stipulation until the match ended, but Ethan Page struck Hook with a cast. That didn't stop Hook. Shortly thereafter, Hardy tapped out to Hook, and that was that. So now I believe Stokely Hathaway is up next for a match against Hook in the near future. Not sure if it's Dynamite or Rampage. I want to say it's a no disqualification match, something along those lines, because he looked shell shocked. He looked absolutely stunned on the outside after the end result of Hook beating Matt Hardy. And I forget the specifics in regards to Matt Hardy having to team with Ethan Page and them. He's not
Mhm.
officially like a member of the firm, but he's stuck with them somehow for X amount of time, right?
Right, yeah.
Because of something in the last month or two, he lost a match or an agreement or something. So Matt Hardy was happy to see that Stokely Hathaway's in the
Right.
disposition now. Even though he got the L. Do you know how long he's got to be stuck with them?
Until
Is this
Tony Khan decides no longer wants
until
him
we
to be
find
there.
out what happens with Matt's? Well, we found out last week. Jeff Hardy is not going to prison.
Right.
Not going to prison. He's what, suspended for 10 years. His license, something like that.
Yeah. Phew.
Let's talk about that
Uh,
for a minute. Just
yeah.
because not only is he one of your favorites, and that's massive news, but with
Mhm.
with, with that case being over and done, are we going to get him back at some point now that that's so to speak behind him?
If I were to be a betting man, which I am not, I would say no.
No.
And I would want him to get all the necessary help. If it means doing whatever community services, whatever meetings he has to attend, um, just so on and so on. Whatever he has to do in order to better his self.
Hmm.
That way he can live a healthy life.
I agree with you. I hope we see him back, but obviously it's selfishly. I'd like to see him
I,
and Matt
I,
finish out with a tag run, but I don't
and
know.
I was gonna say that I, selfishly if I wish I could say I would want him, I want to see him in the ring, but
Hmm.
if this is what needs to happen, just so that like I was saying, he can live a peaceful life, then by all means, if I don't ever see him step into the wrestling ring again, mm, I think I'm okay with that. I've had all those memories as a child.
Yeah, yeah, we
That's
both
made
do.
it.
Yeah.
That's what made him my favorite wrestler.
Hmm.
It wasn't what he accomplished, past 2016 that made him my favorite wrestler. It was everything prior
Sure.
to that.
Sure.
So
Even though that pop in 2017 at WrestleMania
it
33,
was
which we were
amazing.
together watching, that was
Yeah.
when the New Day introduced that fourth and final team in that match against Enzo and Cass, The Bar, and Gallows and Anderson.
Mhm.
Man, was that exciting or what? But
No.
anyway, all the best to Jeff Hardy. Hey, look, if he comes back and wrestles in AEW, maybe one more tag title run, we're all here for it. But if he just ends up, just enjoying and getting his personal life in order going forward, by all means. Again, like Kev said, we have plenty of memories from him, and it's not going to make or break our love for him and the Hardy Boys whether or not he comes to AEW and goes for one more tag title reign, right?
Mhm.
So we have Tony Storm going up against Riho. Now, Riho, as we all know, in 2019 was the inaugural AEW Women's World Champion. When they said on Wednesday night's telecast that she's only 25 years old, even though she only looks like she's 18, I was like, man, she's still only 25. So that means obviously she won the title 21, 22, and still, yet so young and so much of her career ahead of her. I know she's tiny, but I really do enjoy Riho. You a fan of her work or what?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. From the get go, when they were forming the rosters for AEW, I saw what she was capable of.
Hmm.
And that's something that I've been getting more into is like that style of like the Joshi wrestling and all that. So for anyone who doesn't really who's not familiar with that, you can definitely look into it on YouTube or whatever other social media platform. And it's different from from like the traditional American women's wrestling style. Um, at times it can seem a little bit more comical. There's definitely like a lot more, like I guess you could say, screaming. But in terms of like the things that they're doing is always impressive, like the maneuvers and just how the matches flow.
Did you watch her rather often before AEW?
No, no, it wasn't until AEW that
Okay.
like looking into a little bit of like her past work, and I loved watching her, when she was a champion, just because she was like at the time the ultimate underdog, this extremely petite, wrestler, trying to fend off, like at the time, it was a Britt Baker, it was a Nyla Rose, a
Who she ended up losing it to, Nyla Rose, right?
yeah, it's just
Okay.
like all these different competitors, and she always put on great matches.
She really did, and Kenny Omega is responsible for bringing her over, right? Making her a part of the initial
I
roster.
believe so. I think that was someone who he noticed, and at the time when Britt was like the only female wrestler signed to like
Yeah, the
uh
first.
yeah, so he tried. I'm pretty sure like he convinced her to come over.
Okay. So we
Yeah.
had, Tony Storm going one on one with Riho. I love Tony Storm's ring gear. I don't know how you felt about it. Yeah, the style wasn't much different than what she's usually worn, but this black and silver combination, great look on Tony Storm. I know she usually comes out in red, which is also a great look, red and black.
Mm.
Nonetheless, love this look. Of course, her running mate, Saraya, was ringside for her during this match. At one point, Riho fell to the outside, where Saraya took advantage and kicked Riho. But AEW Women's World Champion Jamie Hayter, where there's Jamie Hayter, who else will be there, Kev? Britt Baker.
Yeah.
But it's okay. These days, I don't mind it as much as they both leaning towards a semi-face turn, I guess you could say, by
Mhm.
default, because Saraya and Tony Storm are clear-cut heels now. And so we see them come out, try to even the odds here, just so there's no funny business with Riho during this match with Saraya. Keeping an eye on things, Riho ended up defeating Tony Storm thanks to a little help from Britt Baker on the outside. Baker and Storm go at it outside, going up to the ramp. Saraya and Hayter in the ring going at it. Ruby Soho's music hits. She enters the ring. Again, these three will be going at it for the AEW Women's World Championship on Sunday at Revolution. Um, Several referees came in to break up the chaos between the three. It was good stuff. I thought this was fun, exciting. Not much more you could do to lead up to this matchup. So, um, yeah, again, without saying too much, we'll get to our predictions in a little bit. Uh, One question I will ask:
Mhm.
uh, Do you think, because they've been teasing, what side is Ruby Soho on? Is she going to lean towards Saraya and Tony Storm being those former WWE female locker room talent, or will she come over to Britt Baker, who she had a long-standing feud with when she first entered the company, and Jamie Hayter? Or she may not pick a side necessarily because she's going up against a representative of said faction in this match Sunday. Do you like the presentation of Ruby Soho as she's been the last 2 years as a babyface in AEW, or should she lean towards being a heel as Ruby Riott was for a long period of time in WWE? Or do you think at her small size and stature that she's better off being like the beloved babyface underdog type of deal?
All great questions. It's difficult to say. Is that I'll I'll kind of dissect it this way. Stop me if I'm rambling too much. Is
Ah,
that
go
like
for it.
obviously when she debuted or whatever, fanfare, beloved by all the fans, and still is, but we so far it's appeared as though for the time being is like maybe we thought she was going to be a TBS champion. That wasn't the case, and now she's trying to go for the main title for women. And it so far to me as a babyface, I've never really felt that she has like that real push. She's going for she's in that match, but it doesn't feel like she kind
Yeah.
of stands a chance, at least for me. So I wouldn't mind seeing her being a heel, to be honest, but I wouldn't want her to be a heel with,
With
uh,
them.
yeah, with them.
Because now again, regardless she's a heel, she's just a counterpart and she's probably the least relevant of the three in the group.
Right. If she were to be a heel by herself, do her own thing, I think she can make more of an impact on the women's roster that way.
Okay. Yeah, that was going to be my next question to you. I was going to say, obviously, if she goes heel, do you think that's going to help her in any way as far as propelling her? Because from a booking standpoint, obviously, she's come up short numerous times.
A lot, yeah.
TBS Championship Tournament last year. In the finals, she lost to Jade Cargill. Obviously, Jade's been champion ever since. A couple months after that, the Owen Hart Foundation Tournament, again, goes into the finals against whom? Britt Baker. Comes
Right.
up short again. Britt Baker. Although she did win the initial, what was it, Casino Battle Royale or whatever on her debut at All Out in 2021. Who would she eliminate? Thunder Rosa was the last person, and she ended up winning that, giving her an opportunity at a title
Right.
shot. So it's like I think she actually ended up winning that Battle Royale, but outside of that, every opportunity she gets at a title, she loses.
It's just
Again,
been
there's
squandered away, yeah.
yeah, and there's no reason to believe that again, there's no without telling our picks, there's no reason to believe that Jamie Hayter is going to lose this title on Sunday. There's really
Mhm.
not. And you look at the other two, I get it. They added Ruby to make it a little more interesting per se, I guess. Um, with the returning Soraya, she's only been back a few months, still, learning the ropes, you know,
Mhm.
quite literally. Um, but there's no reason to believe that a Soraya or even a Ruby Soho added last minute are going to take the title off of Hayter. So I'm in the same boat there with you. We got a segment with Keith Lee and Dustin Rhodes sending out a challenge to the Mogul affiliates, I believe Friday night on Rampage. Maybe we're going to see those other two tag up against them. That would be my assumption. I don't think we'll see Swerve Strickland. We'll see Parker Boudreaux and the gentleman who used to play for the Tampa Bay Rays. Have we gotten a name for this guy yet? It's been
We
two and a
did,
half
I just
months.
don't remember it. They gave him a
Okay,
name,
a couple weeks ago.
yeah, I'm pretty sure, it's just I don't recall it off the top of my mind. It's one of those things where if you don't see someone, I tend to forget, like,
Yeah,
your name.
I'll look it up. I know it had been weeks where we're like, who is this mystery man and what is his name?
Right.
But we knew he played pro baseball at some point in time. But anyway, we'll likely see them in a tag match Friday night. All right, so now we're going into the Casino Tag Team Battle Royale to determine the fourth team in Sunday's tag team title matchup. I know that we have the defending AEW World Tag Team Champions, the Guns, Austin and Colton in that matchup. We have the former tag team champions, the Acclaimed, and then Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett. So we'll find out who this fourth team is in just a bit. We start off with the Dark Order's John Silver and Alex Reynolds, as we alluded to at the top of the show, interrupted by the Blackpool Combat Club's Wheeler Yuta and Claudio Castagnoli. Again, Wheeler Yuta showing his heel tendencies, coming out and attacking them, not even letting their entrance music play. So I again love seeing this side of Wheeler Yuta. Second consecutive week. Shortly after that, we have Preston Vance and Rush, La Faction Ingernable. Did I say that correctly?
Close enough.
Close enough. Well, when we refer to them, I'll either say their names or let you say the faction's name. We had the Lucha Brothers, Aussie Open, Top Flight, Jericho Appreciation Society's Angelo Parker and Matt Menard. Also, the Kingdom's Mike Bennett and Matt Taven. Josh Woods and Aria Davari and Tony Nese were on the outside, all working for or with Mark Sterling. They weren't even scheduled in this match, but they were attacking talent left and right. Suddenly see Danhausen and Orange Cassidy emerge. Now, it was supposed to be Trent and Chuck in this match, right? And they ended up replacing them. Why were they removed from this match? They weren't injured, right?
I see. I'll be honest, that's something that I didn't
You
pick
had
up
missed
on.
that part?
Oh,
I
yeah.
missed it as well. Like, I actually saw the backstage segment, but I'm like, I think I missed something because I didn't see why it was that they were going to replace them later in the night. Again, I'm sure it's notable. No, there's a notable reason. I don't think we really care too much as to why they weren't in the match. They probably weren't going to win anyway. Uh,
Right.
Ironically, the people who replaced them did, but we'll get to that. But I found that to be pretty interesting. Again, Tony Khan's just like, I got to get Orange Cassidy on this card. How am I going to do it? If he's not defending his All Atlantic Championship, damn it, I'm
Right.
putting him in a
Yeah.
tag team match,
Yeah.
right?
He ended up pulling what, double duty, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, the way this went down, and after Danhausen and Orange Cassidy came out, shortly thereafter, Butcher and the Blade entered as the final team, which ended up being the last two teams in this match. So, pretty sure in this order, Dark Order, bump, eliminated Lucha Bros, La Facción.
De los Ingobernables.
See, great
Yeah.
job. Thanks for sticking that one out for me.
Yeah.
The Kingdom, Aussie Open, then the Blackpool
Mm.
Combat Club. At this point, down to two teams. Again, I'm not sure at what point Top Flight was eliminated, somewhere in the midst of that. Down to two teams, Danhausen and Orange Cassidy, and Butcher and the Blade. Comes a point where Butcher and the Blade were eliminated both at once by Danhausen, and they punched their ticket to Sunday's tag team matchup. They're the fourth team. After the match, Jarrett and Lethal came out and attacked Danhausen and Orange Cassidy. Not sure if their guns were out there, but I know the Acclaimed came out for the save to clear the ring, and that was that. So very unlikely duo, I guess you could say. Again, we know
Yeah.
that Orange Cassidy is certainly a favorite of Tony Khan's, so from that standpoint, not surprised that he was booked for a match in some capacity at Revolution. But from all the talented actual tag teams in that match, I mean, I just listed them all: Lucha Bros, Top Flight, you name it. I'm surprised it wasn't an actual tag team in it, but I guess they weren't
Right.
looking for a team to be a legitimate contender to win the tag titles on Sunday.
Right. Yeah. From that standpoint, it makes sense when you say it like that because I think initially the fanfare was that, and I had mentioned this prior to us starting the episode, is that I really thought I was going to end up hearing FTR's music hit. Never came to be. So it's one of those things where like, okay, well, it's weird that they put a non-real tag team in there, but I guess it's one of those situations where it's just like, all right, I guess we don't really need it. Um, and that's going to be its own thing, its own storyline. But then that also creates the new dynamic, that new conversation of like, okay, so with regards to FTR, like, are they sticking around or not? So just creating a whole bunch of questions now. As you were just saying, you don't know if they were signed or not, and that's the whole thing that they're playing up on social media right now. Specifically, what is it, Dax? Right? He's the one that's always on social media, just
Well, he has his podcast now. He
yeah,
does weekly.
right. And he's always just kind of like sending something, tweeting something or whatever. And it's weird because like definitely what like 2 years ago, if you if you would have asked them, they would have said no chance in hell. We're not going back to WWE. And now with the contract ending and the way things are working out, a different management, and I don't know if they're happy that maybe they wanted to be champions one more time before their contract was up. They're just like, I think we're good with it with our with our time that already happened in AEW. And they're 1 foot in the door, 1 foot out the door. That's what it seems like.
And that comes. You say that, and one other thing that comes to mind, as much as I would love to see them AEW Tag Team Champions again, you'd agree. Um, especially the unfortunate, untimely passing of Jay Briscoe. I think our last episode of me and you on here was literally days before that happened. We haven't been able to speak on it much on air. We've obviously texted and spoke about it in person numerous times, but I think there is a certain sense of peace amongst Cash Wheeler, amongst Dax Harwood, that they had this best of three series with the Briscoes, for those Ring of Honor tag titles. They also, in the meantime, held the AAA tag titles. They also held the IWGP tag titles. And although they didn't hold the AEW tag titles in 2022, that fourth set of titles on them would have been very nice during this epic run that they had last year. Um, I think they're also at peace. I'm obviously not speaking for them, but if they don't go back to AEW, and I'm sure they have a list of reasons why, or hang in Ring of Honor, I think they feel like there's a sense of our work is done here. I don't, I think this chapter may be closed, and
Mm.
maybe we'll give it one last run if the stars align in WWE, whether it's 1 year, 2 years, who knows, and maybe we'll just call it a career. I kind of
Yeah.
feel like maybe I don't know if Cash would go on and wrestle singles, but I
Mm.
kind of feel like that's where Dax Harwood is at this stage of his career, or ends up becoming Scott Dawson again, whatever. Um, that's kind of how I look at it from their standpoint, and the sequence of events that have happened, good, bad, and different over the past couple of months.
Right. Yeah. I definitely agree with that. As you're saying, uh, they feel, you could say, like they're the gratified, that feeling of gratification that they were able to leave the quote unquote big timers, go back to the indies, accomplish everything that they wanted to, still look like one of the best tag teams in the world. And yeah, and now they're at that standpoint where they're just like, do we continue down this path, or do we kind of like circle back around, and go back to the WWE? Um, and right now, for me, if you were to ask me, it definitely looks like they want to go back to WWE. And I don't know in terms of like you were saying, how long they want to wrestle for, continue. But if I were to guess, maybe that WWE contract would be like another 4 or 5 years.
And whether or not they give a damn about being in the WWE Hall of Fame one day, I of course this is all speculation. We don't know if that means anything to them or how much it does or not, but I think them going back, whether they won the tag titles one more time or four more times, that would solidify them being eventually inducted at some point in time in the WWE Hall of Fame. Not to say that, FTR, the Revival, haven't already had a Hall of Fame career in WWE, in NXT, on Raw, on SmackDown. Um, I think they're definitely eligible for the Hall of Fame, in my opinion, but I think to solidify, maybe in their eyes or maybe in the company's eyes, of them one day being inducted or eventually finishing their careers with WWE, I think this would be a great look. And of course, a bigger and better probability for them one day being inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame.
Yeah. And I think the perfect person to do that would be like a Bailey, or one of their
Yeah,
best.
one of their
One of
best friends.
their, yeah, yeah. Who knows? We'll see what becomes in the next few months with FTR.
Let's wrap up this AEW Dynamite review in just a minute here. Let's finish with the final segment of the night that took place with Bryan Danielson and MJF. I thought this segment was fantastic. All due to Bryan Danielson. It was all him on the microphone for a change.
Right.
Wouldn't allow MJF to talk. So this was great. So leading to the main event, most likely will be the main event for the AEW World Championship on Sunday. We have Renee Paquette with Bryan Danielson. Now, the only time Renee really spoke was she referenced I believe it was a 2014 social media post from MJF uh, saying from MJF's standpoint, saying that he was going to be dropping out of college to pursue his dream of becoming a professional wrestler, and that the likes of Bryan was his inspiration to do so. Again, not verbatim. This was along the lines of
Right.
what was said. And that 2014, who remembers that better than us? That was the year that Danielson or Daniel Bryan won the main event of WrestleMania 30. We watched that together. Somebody
Yeah.
had a dinner scheduled on that night.
Yeah.
Michelle,
Yeah.
Kevin's sister. We love her dearly. Um, so yeah, again, WrestleMania 30 won that World Championship match against Dave Batista and Randy Orton in that triple threat. So anyway, before Danielson could go on here, MJF, his music hits. He comes out as he's about to talk. And Brian had said a few words prior to this. I forget exactly. Nothing of note, but what I'm about to say is definitely of note. And he says, "Shut up, Max. You always do the talking. Now it's my turn to speak." And that he did. Danielson goes on and says to MJF, "If there's one thing you deserve, it's that your fiance is leaving you or had left you," which is obviously real life stuff that we found out last week when MJF told us in front of the world. He goes on to tell MJF, "You were born with a silver spoon in your mouth. I fought poverty, depression, injuries, etc." He goes, "I left a job that would pay me for the rest of my life," obviously, in reference to WWE. But I left, came here to AEW because I wanted to fight. says he wants to become AEW World Champion and that he's ready to fight for it. And this I was shocked by. Of course, it was censored, bleeped out by TBS. And he goes, I'm ready to fight for it. And if you're not ready, you're going to get your fucking ass kicked. Now, when he said that, I said, whoa. I said, he said that on television. I know AEW, they've been known to say some crazy stuff that they've gotten in trouble for. This is not a pay per view. So the fact that Brian was this fired up, and look, Daniel Bryan or Brian Danielson, whatever you want to call him, this was much more than just a promo, a segment, a lead into a pay per view match. This is an eventual Hall of Famer, obviously. He's
Mhm.
already in the Ring of Honor Hall of Fame, right? If I'm not mistaken, or is well on his way. Will be in
Yeah.
the WWE Hall of Fame one day. If AEW decides to have one, he'll be in that too. And the list goes on for days. So this is, even though, I still do see MJF retaining because it's early on in his tenure
Right.
as champion. Um, he's giving him a reality check, quite literally.
Yeah.
And, this is somebody that MJF looked up to, and now he's facing one of his, childhood idols, I guess you could say. And MJF kind of wants to let him know, like, look, you are champion here. You seemingly have AEW and Tony Khan by the balls, as far as saying I may be hopping over the WWE whenever I feel like it or my contract's up next year. And he says, hey, you know what? Not necessarily if the grass is greener or not. Danielson is reminding MJF, hey, I've been there, I've done that, and they were going to pay me an immense amount of money. I decided I want to leave because I wanted to come over here and be a pro wrestler and not a sports entertainer to finish off my career. That
Right.
being said, this show was good. This made the show great to me. This is what gave it a solid 8. I probably would have said 6.5, 7. This gave it a solid 8. I thought it was an amazing finish leading into Revolution on Sunday night. Of course, we're going to get an hour of Rampage Friday night. That's a little bit nonsensical. Obviously, this is the meat and potatoes.
Yeah.
That being said, what did you feel about this Brian segment? How do you feel about this matchup?
I felt like it was a good lead into, that always that you want that good home show going into that pay-per-view where you wanna really ignite the crowd. You want them to care about said feud, whether we think we know the the outcome or not, as us wrestling fans tend to do.
Hmm.
Uh, and that's just him showing again, why a lot of people consider or regard him as one of the top wrestlers in the entire world. Is that besides we know his what he can do in the ring, which is he can wrestle for an hour easily, um, and not break a sweat. But he can always deliver these promos with such passion, you know, and that was kind of what we saw ignite, at the time the Yes movement, the Yeselmania, whatever you want to say, is that he has such conviction and charisma when he speaks, and he was just kind of flaunting that again, like listen, like he's like with all due respect, to MJF, he's like listen, I'll put all my cards on the table. That's what it kind of felt like.
And for him to still be able to do that almost 10 years after WrestleMania,
Right.
that all got going in 2013, leading to the main event of 2014's WrestleMania. WrestleMania 30, I can't believe we're knocking on 40 next spring. And it's
Mhm.
like, man, to see him at this stage or this point in his career, to see
Still
this
so
fire,
passionate.
to
Yeah.
see this passion, and we knew this at minimum 2.5 years ago when he left WWE to jump ship to AEW. He didn't need to do that. One of the most notable names coming, giving them legitimacy, outside of like Moxley and of course, Cody was there at the time and stuff, and obviously
Mhm.
all the guys that were non WWE, Omega and the Bucks, but they needed guys to give this company legitimacy and Jericho and such. But to see Daniel Bryan come over here and to make this company and these matchups and these rivalries and these segments feel so important, which they are, and to know he legit means it, it means everything, I think, not even to just AEW, but to the pro wrestling fans and the business as a whole.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. This is what he loves to do, man. You
Hmm.
know, at the end of the day, he wants to wrestle, create great memories for the fans.
Yeah, and that he is, and that he will continue to do so as long as he wants. I don't know if he's going to wrestle much after 2023, or at least on a consistent schedule, but hey, we'll enjoy it while we have him here, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
So that's pretty much our Dynamite. Well, that is our Dynamite review. Again, folks, tune in to the next episode. We'll be coming up with eventually for our predictions of AEW Revolution for Sunday night. Should be a good show. And before we get out of here, I know you shared a picture with me earlier in the day, Wednesday. I also went on Twitter and saw it myself shortly thereafter. We've seen her on AEW television in the past when Cody was still there. I remember here in Jersey, they actually had a segment. But Rosario Dawson was on the red carpet with one Mercedes Varnado or Mercedes Monet. And this was the red carpet, Kev, what was it, of Star Wars The Mandalorian.
Right.
And this was Mercedes out there with her new IWGP Women's Championship, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. We got to see a great photo of them, kind of doing like a little power struggle.
Little
Each one,
tug of war, if you
yeah,
will.
or each one holding the opposing end of the belt, and yeah, it's one of those things where uh, you would never think that that's something like that would really happen.
Hmm.
Getting to see that title in a venue like that, so it was really nice to see. Giving some shedding some light to like those who are knowledgeable, or just for whatever reason don't care about like the women's wrestling outside of WWE, giving some limelight to that. So it was really good to see that.
You're right, because you're so used to only seeing the WWE Championship. You don't even see the AEW Championship, men's or
Right.
women's, spotlighted like this,
Yeah.
highlighted like this. You might see Bianca Belair with the Raw Women's title or Charlotte Flair with the SmackDown on a red carpet or something here or there, but you never see a New Japan Championship. And to see her not even be champion for 2 weeks at this point, going out there on the red carpet and giving it the
Right.
showcasing it, giving it the respect it deserves is obviously the company's got to be head over heels too. It's seeing this, and obviously that's why they didn't hesitate to put this title on her so early. Uh, with her being with the company and stuff.
Right. Yeah. Just uh, it's just a really good thing to see,
It
as a
is.
wrestler.
It is definitely is. Just more light shed on other companies outside of WWE. It's such a beautiful thing to see too, because it's not the only show in town. Maybe the biggest. It's been for years, but to see a New Japan or AEW or whomever else, it's a very nice thing to see. All right, associates. So I'll see you a couple days time for the AEW Revolution predictions. And I want to thank everybody, each and every one of our listeners, to listening to the Turnbuckle Topics podcast. This is the AEW Dynamite review, and we'll see you next time for those predictions of Revolution. We're looking forward to it. I know you are too. Thanks for listening.